Under a burning sun in the summer of 1876, the Wyoming Territory trembled with dust, gun smoke, and the kind of silence that only came before violence, and as coyotes howled across the Bighorn Mountains, a lone rider sat his horse at the edge of a sprawling ranch worth $1 million, a ranch he was destined to inherit, if only he agreed to the strangest condition ever set down in a man's will, that he must marry 3 obese women before the deed could pass into his hands. A condition that mocked his pride, tested his grit, and threatened to brand him as a laughingstock in every saloon and street corner from Red Hollow to Cheyenne, and as he gripped the leather reins and looked across the rolling fields that shimmered like gold in the fading light, he asked himself a question that would not let him rest. Was this land worth the cost of his pride, or was pride worth more than land in a country where men killed and died for both? The story began in Johnson County, Wyoming Territory, at the height of the frontier's chaos, in the summer of 1876, when word of Custer's defeat at the Little Bighorn sent shockwaves through every settlement, filling saloons with rumors of Indian wars and cattle barons sharpening their knives for expansion, and in the small town of Red Hollow, nestled against the Powder River, life balanced on a razor's edge of law and lawlessness, with ranchers staking claims, railroads pushing iron through the soil, and drifters chasing whiskey, gold, or blood. In that rugged land lived Daniel McGraw, a 27-year-old cowboy forged in sweat and storms, whose Uncle Henry had carved out a ranch empire through cunning deals and relentless work, a ranch sprawling with fertile pastures and strong herds, a place Daniel had always dreamed of owning to prove himself worthy in a world that respected only strength. But when Uncle Henry died, the will he left behind was unlike any Red Hollow had ever seen. Written in shaky script and sealed by Judge Carter, the will promised Daniel the entire estate worth $1 million, but only if he married 3 obese women within 1 season, and not merely married, but kept them as wives under his roof, bound together for a full year before the deed would be final, and should even one wife leave him, the land would fall into the greedy hands of Clayton Reed, a ruthless cattle baron who had long circled Henry's land like a wolf waiting for blood. Some whispered Henry had lost his mind in his last days. Others said he crafted the clause to humble Daniel, who had grown proud and solitary, and a few believed Henry wanted to protect women scorned by society, ensuring they found a place of dignity through the inheritance. For Daniel, the choice was torment. Abandon the land he had dreamed of since boyhood or embrace humiliation and risk ridicule for the sake of legacy. He rode into Red Hollow to announce the will, and when the saloon doors creaked open under his boots, smoke and laughter filled the air, and as he laid the parchment on a whiskey-stained table, the men exploded with jeers. "Marry 3 fat women?" one ranch hand roared, spitting tobacco near his boots. "McGraw, you'd best start fattening up the cows." Another chimed in. "Hell, you'll have the biggest house and the heaviest beds in the territory." The laughter bit deep, but Daniel steadied his jaw, for beneath their mockery lay the truth. Reed and his men would seize the ranch if he failed, and Reed was already whispering to Judge Carter, greasing pockets with gold, eager to claim the land. The first test of Daniel's resolve came when he met Clara Bell, a widow of 35 whose husband had been gunned down in a cattle raid. Clara was strong, heavy-set, and weary of men's sneers, her face lined with sorrow, yet her spirit sharp as barbed wire. Daniel found her at the churchyard, laying flowers on her husband's grave, and he told her the truth without dressing it in lies. "Clara, I need a wife," he said, voice steady, but eyes burning. "Not for love at first, but for respect, for a chance at a home, and I'll give you both land and dignity if you'll stand with me." Clara's gaze pierced him. "Respect is dearer than gold, Daniel. If you marry me for pity, I'll bury you beside my husband, but if you'll treat me fair, I'll stand with you." With those words, Clara became his first wife, though whispers spread like wildfire through town. The second step of Daniel's strange journey came with Martha, a merchant's daughter whose family store had crumbled under debt. Martha was mocked for her size by cruel young men, but she carried a laugh that could lift even the darkest room, and a stubborn streak that refused to bow. Daniel approached her in the ruined store where dust covered empty shelves. "Martha," he said, "I offer not riches but a chance to build again if you'll marry me under these terms." She stared, then demanded, "Prove you won't cast me aside once you've got your land." She tested him by joining a cattle drive, forcing him to ride for days and guard her against rustlers who prowled the plains. Under firelight, after Daniel shielded her from outlaws with his revolver flashing in the dark. She laughed and agreed. "You're stubborn enough to keep me," she said, "and maybe even foolish enough to deserve me." By then, the town gathered daily to gossip, mocking Daniel's wives-to-be. But Red Hollow was no longer laughing alone. Clayton Reed fanned the ridicule, offering bribes to the women to abandon Daniel, whispering promises of freedom and wealth. The third wife proved the hardest. Daniel rode to the outskirts where Eliza lived alone in a shack battered by wind, a shotgun always in her hands. Years of poverty and rejection had carved suspicion into her soul. When Daniel arrived, she leveled the barrel at his chest. "Men like you don't come here unless you want something. Speak fast." Daniel confessed everything. The will, the condition, the ranch. Eliza laughed bitterly. "So, I'm to be your prize cow in this game?" she asked. Daniel didn't flinch. "No, Eliza. I'm asking you to be my ally, but you'll have to. Trust me." She sneered. "Trust is earned. Defend me from Reed's men who come every month to steal and threaten, and I'll consider it." That night, Reed's riders came, torches blazing. Shots cracked like thunder across the trees, and Daniel fought tooth and bone, revolver spitting fire, blood staining his shirt, until Reed's men lay scattered in the dirt. Eliza lowered her shotgun. Eyes softened. "Maybe you ain't like the others," she said. She agreed, but only with caution. With 3 wives at his side, Daniel thought the test nearly won, until Judge Carter revealed the hidden clause. The marriages meant nothing unless all 3 wives lived under one roof with him for a full year, and if anyone left, the deed would fall to Reed. The midpoint twist struck like lightning, raising the stakes beyond Daniel's pride. Life in the ranch house turned into a war of its own. Clara clashed with Eliza over pride. Martha wept under gossip. Daniel fought to hold them together while Reed worked to tear them apart. He spread lies in town, planted spies to whisper in the women's ears, offering them gold to leave Daniel. Each week brought a new cliffhanger. Clara packing her bags after a bitter quarrel, Martha nearly fleeing after hearing Reed promise her independence, Eliza almost firing on Daniel after a heated dispute over trust. But each time, Daniel fought back, not with force, but with words, gestures, and the grit of a man learning humility. He shared the toil of the ranch, sweating beside them in the fields, defending them in town when mockers jeered, proving he was more than a schemer chasing. And by winter, snow fell across the bighorns, blanketing the ranch, and in that stormy season, their fragile household began to feel like a family, though danger brewed. Reed, furious at Daniel's persistence, set his final plan into motion. A bitter night, Reed's men set fire to the barn, flames roaring into the sky, cattle stampeding in terror. Daniel and his wives fought as one, Clara leading the bucket line, Martha calming the herd, Eliza firing her shotgun into the dark as Daniel clashed with Reed in the blaze. Sparks fell, cattle screamed, and gunfire cracked. But when dawn broke, Reed lay bound in the dirt, his men scattered like ash on the wind. The town, once mocking, stood silent as Daniel, bruised and smoke-stained, stood beside 3 women who had become not conditions of a will, but partners in survival. Judge Carter sealed the deed at last, and Daniel inherited the ranch. But more than that, he inherited a family built from hardship and defiance. The twist came when Carter revealed Henry's private words, left in a sealed letter. Henry had not sought to shame Daniel, but to teach him humility, to show him that strength came not from pride, but from standing beside those the world dismissed, and that true wealth was not land, but loyalty, love, and the courage to fight for them. Daniel understood at last. What began as a bargain had grown into bonds that defied laughter and scorn, a testament to the truth that dignity lies not in what others say, but in how you stand with those at your side when the fire comes. And so, in that summer of 1876, amid dust and gunsmoke, Daniel McGraw carved his mark not with gold or blood, but with unity. Thank you for riding through this tale of grit and heart with Western stories. Make sure to subscribe for more frontier legends. And tell me, if you were Daniel McGraw, would you marry for the land or walk away and let the wolves devour it?